Um, I didn't even know what time is it now.
7:30.
Okay.
7:30.
Shall we start or just wait a little bit more? Jane, shall we start or we wait for 5 more minutes?
Oh, we don't have to wait anymore. I think we can begin. Jessica?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Okay.
So shall we start now? All right. Everybody ready, right? Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Millburn Short Hill Chinese Association 2025 Township Committee Candidate Forum. The Millburn Short Hill Chinese Association is non-profit, nonpartisan organization committed to fostering culture exchange, community engagement, and civic participation. Tonight's forum is an opportunity for residents to hear directly from candidates for Township Committee, to learn about their priority, and to engage with the issues that matter most of our community. We thank all the candidates to joining us tonight, and thank you the community for participating. The forum is not an adornment of any candidate and parties. Our role is provide a fair and respectful platform to dialogue. For dialogue. Let me introduce tonight's moderator, Jessica Fong.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jess. I will be moderating tonight's event and excited to see and strap in for the next hour and a half. Here's tonight's programming and a couple of ground rules for how this will work. So each candidate will begin with an opening statement. Those will be 2.5 minutes each. We will then move into a series of thematic questions where each candidate will have equal time to share their views. After the theme questions, we will take a selection of audience submitted questions as time permits. The questions are consolidated from residents prior to this forum, and some may have been consolidated or grouped together for clarity. And finally, each candidate will have time for a closing statement. Given the volume of topics I've been handed, I will be monitoring time pretty strictly to ensure fairness, but also to make sure we get through everything. A signal will be given when 10 seconds remain, and I kindly ask that everyone respect the time limits. Candidates and participants are reminded to maintain a respectful tone. The chat box is not to be used during the forum. Our goal here is to ensure that all voices are heard equally and fairly. So we'll start with introductions. These are 1.5 minutes each for each candidate to introduce themselves. We'll go alphabetically by last name, and then in terms of the order of responses, that will be on a rotating basis. So for the introductions by last name, we are starting with Michael Cohen, followed by Kris Heinrichs, Annette Romano, and then Jamie Serruto. And then as we get into the next round, it will start with Kris Heinrichs, Annette Romano, Jamie Serruto, Michael Cohen, and it will kind of rotate that way. So not everyone is starting or ending each round. Any questions before we kick it off? Okay, amazing. So we'll start with introductions. Again, these are 1.5 minutes each. There is a timer supposedly in the corner, but I can also pop up a Post-it at the 10-second mark. And we will start with Michael Cohen. Take it away.
Okay. Well, Thank you to the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for hosting this important forum, and also to all the people that are attending tonight. For anyone that doesn't know me, I have lived in the Brookhaven-Glenwood section of Short Hills for over 36 years. I'm married to Meryl Stone and have 2 sons that were educated in the Millburn school system. I recently became a grandfather. After receiving my MBA from Northwestern University Kellogg, I spent the bulk of my career at JPMorgan Chase. Originally a technology project manager, I later utilized my accounting skills in managing a team in the government reporting group, working with regulators from the Fed and the SEC. This combination of financial and business skills has served me well on the Township Committee. While government doesn't run the same way as a business, it provided me with a solid foundation and allowed me to get up to speed quickly on various issues. In addition, as you would expect in business, the Township Committee meetings have become much more civil and professional than they were before I was elected. JPMorgan Chase is an organization that thrives on consensus, and that is another skill that has been fundamental to my time on the Township Committee. Millburn faces real challenges: climate change and more frequent flooding, rising costs, aging infrastructure, and an uncertain economy. These are complex problems that require steady, informed leadership. I am fiscally conservative. I've worked closely with our township administrator and CFO to ensure taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. In my first 2 years, you're done? Okay, sorry, that was quick. All right, sorry.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. That was the 10-second mark. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, okay, so let me just finish then.
Yeah, finish your sentence.
Yeah, in my first 2 years, we had no municipal tax increase. This past year, we had just a 1 penny increase in the tax rate, largely driven by healthcare costs. Millburn needs leadership that is both visionary and practical. I bring that balance, and I look forward to continuing the work we've started. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move next to Kris Heinrichs, whenever you're ready.
Thank you to the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for sponsoring this forum, and thank you for everyone who is listening. My name is Kris Heinrichs, and I am running for Township Committee because the future of Millburn is at risk. The core qualities that we all moved here for, exceptional schools, safety and security, and the peaceful suburban setting, are under threat. I realize the best way to protect our schools and fight reckless overdevelopment is to change the leadership of the town. I am a seasoned financial executive with over 20 years of business experience in managing global technology and advertising companies. As a top executive, including chief financial officer, I've had to guide my companies through critical situations and make hard choices. I know how to dissect a budget, ensure every dollar is spent wisely, and invest in the future. I served as an officer in the United States Army and volunteered in many organizations. Currently, I'm serving on the Millburn Board of Education and was unanimously elected to serve as president for this year. Our local politics have become increasingly toxic, shaped by the divisive national discourse and constrained by a rigid two-party system. This environment discourages residents from engaging with the facts about their community and deters qualified individuals from seeking office, as many do not want to subject themselves to this hostility. Throughout my career, I've been able to bring people together, obtain input from all stakeholders, focus on what matters, and deliver results. I can do that for this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. Up next, we have Annette Romano.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for hosting tonight's forum. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Annette Romano, and I'm proud to serve as the mayor of Millburn. I was born and raised here. My husband, Nick, and I chose to raise our family here. I currently live in the Wyoming section. Millburn Short Hills is home for me, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. I've been a part of this community for 60 years, and my children attended the Millburn Public Schools. Public service has always been central to my life, volunteering in schools, PTO, Girl Scouts, the American Red Cross, and serving on local township boards for the past 25 years. In 2019, I founded the Millburn Food Pantry, which became an essential resource during COVID for residents facing hardship. I'm running for re-election because I care deeply about this town and all of the 22,000 people that live here. From those thriving to those struggling. As a township committee member and mayor, I've also made accessibility a priority. ensuring residents can reach me whenever they need. Serving this community has been an honor, and I would be grateful for the opportunity to continue to work for another term. During our first term, we've accomplished a great deal and launched many exciting projects, renovating Town Hall and the paper mill, building a new inclusive playground, updating the entrance to Taylor Park from Millburn Avenue, and making important progress on flood mitigation. Millburn is a remarkable town that others admire. Oh, sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last but not least in this round, Jamie Serruto.
Hi, I'm Jamie Serruto. Thank you so much to the Chinese Association of Millburn Short Hills for hosting tonight. It's always great to learn and celebrate with all of you. Thank you for all you do for our community. I'm a lifelong Millburn Short Hills resident, growing up here with generations of my family having gone through Millburn High. I served as class president and proud alum of Millburn High, and I became the youngest elected official in New Jersey when I was first elected to the Millburn Board of Education, proudly serving for 3 years, focusing on our education system and strengthening our community through all of my community involvement, whether that be Rocktoberfest, serving as president of the Millburn Short Hills 4th of July Committee, serving at almost every major community event, and taking part in many of the Chinese Association's events. I want to protect our community, whether that be being vigilant and stopping the overdevelopment, whether it be protecting our neighborhoods and ensuring we have the tools for our police and our town leaders to make the right decisions. I want to focus on our future and on our posterity and focus on what matters most, our kids. I serve as a public affairs consultant, and I've traveled this state. I've been in many communities, and I see how things are done, and I want to contribute to making our community a special place for posterity. Have you seen the 4-story concrete going up? Have you seen the cranes? Have you seen the traffic on the roads? We need to be vigilant. And Romano and Cohen allowed developers to come into this town. Take a stand, vote Jamie Serruto and Kris Heinrichs for Township Committee. And thanks again for hosting. Looking forward to tonight's debate.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. We'll now get into opening statements where each candidate will have 2.5 minutes to outline their vision for Millburn Township and what you hope to accomplish. And so we're moving one step over in this round, starting with Kris Heinrichs, followed by Annette Romano, Jamie Serruto, and Michael Cohen. So Kris, whenever you're ready.
So Jessica, I think I had a misunderstanding on the instructions. I thought the opening statement and the priorities were the same thing.
Got it. Okay. I guess I'll open it to Jesslyn and Jane on how we want to proceed here, because I guess the way we had structured it was for brief introduction and then I guess a slightly longer framework to discuss the vision for Millburn Township. But if that's, I guess, overlapped with what's already been discussed, we can jump right into questions and have a few more minutes for questions if that works with everyone.
Or yeah, I'm happy to
That was
talk
my
about
understanding
some of the
too.
priorities that we have,
Okay.
if that's what we want to do.
Okay. Jane, if that's all right with everyone, I'm happy to
Yes, please.
move right into questions. Okay, perfect. Then we will get right into the thematic question rounds. And the timing here is the same, 2.5 minutes to respond. We will not have separate rebuttal rounds, but we do want to give each candidate an opportunity to just share their perspective directly. That said, despite no rebuttal, each candidate is free to use their allocated time to highlight any differences in platform and positions. So starting with round one, this is development and infrastructure, which I know is a big topic from Millburn. So while development can bring new energy to the community, many residents are concerned about the scale of recent projects, particularly affordable housing requirements being paired with a large proportion of luxury apartments. These projects raise important questions about density, traffic, and the ability of the school district's infrastructure to keep pace with growth. What is your approach to managing new development and infrastructure needs, and what challenges or opportunities do you see in this area? So Kris, again, I'll start with you, and this time it is 2.5 minutes. You are muted. There we
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, don't know why I was muted. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you, Jessica. I want to make sure everyone understands we got here. Many New Jersey towns face overdevelopment pressure from affordable housing due to Trenton's mandates. We do not oppose affordable housing, but we are staunchly opposed to reckless overdevelopment ran through under the guise of affordable housing, ultimately lining the pockets of connected developers instead of helping the very people it was meant to lift up. Our opponents falsely claim Republicans kicked the can down the road for decades. In reality, the obligation stemmed from a 2015 change in state law. Since 2017, the Township Committee has had a Democratic majority, which has mishandled the affordable housing issue and created our current crisis. During 2017, on deliberations of the Woodland Road projects, Democrats failed to take legal steps necessary to secure immunity from fair share housing lawsuits. The housing plan filed 3 days late, despite months to do so. This lapse opened the door to developer litigation, resulting in 735 total units, 194 affordable, far exceeding our necessary obligation. This agreement is widely regarded as the worst in the state. The most problematic part of round 3 is the 75-unit, 100% income segregated housing project slated for the contaminated town dump. This exceeded our town's affordable housing obligation and is an atrocious financial deal. The town essentially issued a blank check to the developer. Projected costs are $50 million for the building and $10 million for environmental cleanup, costs that Millburn taxpayers are liable for if grants fall short. Romano and Cohen were responsible for advancing the project, finalizing the designation of RPM as the developer. Their actions directly put the township in a very difficult position to fight this project. We will join the efforts initiated by Frank and Ben to appeal round 3 final order on the grounds that the dump project is unconstitutional. There was no public input and the land cannot be remediated due to the kinds and levels of toxicity present. It was Frank and Ben who ground the dump project to a standstill, and we'll continue that fight. Romano and Cohen have acted out of political expedience. They were for the dump project, and now they say they're against the dump. They can't fool Millburn voters. How can we trust them? I've covered the history. Jamie will cover what we're going to do on the go forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll rotate now to Annette Romano, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. Development is a major issue for our town now and will continue to be so in the future. My plan is to stay closely involved in where and when new development should happen and to make sure that any new projects are the right size and fit in with the surrounding neighborhoods. Right now, everyone on the Township Committee is working together towards that same goal. Our Round 4 affordable housing plan was approved unanimously by all committee members. We will push back when we need to with developers. Scaling back proposed developments when we need to, we will remain proactive and involved and have more control over what gets built in our town. This outcome is much better than what happened with the Round 3 settlement, which I don't believe was a good deal for the community. There's been a lot of blame thrown back and forth between Republicans and Democrats about who's responsible for the lack of affordable housing. The truth is, both sides have had opportunities to act and didn't do enough. Republicans argue that recent Democratic majorities failed to address the town's affordable housing obligation, but it's also true that during Republican-led years, no affordable units were built. Rather than focusing on the past, I want to keep looking forward, making sure that any future developments are smart, balanced, and in the best interests of Millburn Township's residents. Thank you.
So, thank you. We'll move on to the next speaker, Jamie Serruto, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Sure. I think we need to clarify that, yes, the laws changed and circumstances did change with the majorities on the Township Committee. The Round 4 was led by Frank Saccomandi as the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Affordable Housing, was completely transparent with information sessions, with public input, etc. And that committee was only formed when Frank and Ben were elected. Annette is trying to take credit for something that Frank and Ben got started, right? The law changed in 2015. Romano supported Maggie Miggins, who gave no opportunity for the public to be part of the affordable housing process. As Democratic chair, she pushed back, saying that she was a strong advocate for transparency, Maggie Miggins. However, we saw that that did not play on. We have to keep in mind here that we're trying to move forward. That means not reelecting the problem. And, there's been a lot of money that has been taken from people who are part of passing the state laws that have impacted our community. Maggie was backed twice by Annette and Michael. And, we've seen this overdevelopment kind of shifting. We've had the opportunity not to choose RPM as the developer on the dump project. Well, that was not adhered to. The direction was given to the attorneys. RPM does not own land in our town, and they can't even file a builder's remedy lawsuit. So what we want to look at is what has changed under Frank-N-Ben and what Kris and I will do going forward. We're going to continue to implement the Frank-N-Ben strategy of being public, of using a citizens advisory committee, of focusing on JFK Parkway and other arteries of the town that aren't core arteries, where the schools are not going to be directly overwhelmed. When we look at senior housing, right, and we look at veterans housing, and we look at other types of projects, aside from a 20% affordable setback set aside, and 80% luxury. Many of these units more expensive than buying a house in the community. So the key here is to look at how Annette and Michael invited RPM into the lawsuit, and that's a huge part of the problem that we're seeing today. We need to fight over development, and that means not reelecting the leaders, both at this level and at the higher levels, who are fighting against our town's interests.
Thank you. And to close out this round on the development question is Michael Cohen.
First of all, before I start, I would just like to point out to Jamie, I think you need to get your facts in order. We were not on the township committee when RPM was chosen. Maybe you weren't paying attention then. What I do remember is the alternative proposal that was considered and dropped was to take over the whole site and build 375 units there with a different developer, not RPM. But those were the two proposals, and we weren't there, but that was the one that was picked. But, whatever, that's how it was. I'll go on to my statement. Like many residents, I share concerns about overdevelopment. A major driver is the state's 80-20 affordable housing rule, which allows 4 market rate units for every 1 affordable unit. Developers argue this is necessary for financial viability, but it has created an oversupply of luxury apartments, some of which may remain vacant or face long-term maintenance issues. Millburn's situation is further complicated by timing. Because prior administrations delayed compliance with Mount Laurel mandates for decades, we're now seeing multiple large projects approved at once with limited time to plan for impacts on schools, traffic, and infrastructure. A prime example is 9 Main Street, approved before we joined the township committee. Although we voted unanimously to oppose it, the courts have overruled us. We've now taken the case to a higher court to await that ruling, and we'll see how that goes. That said, we are making progress. I served on both the Affordable Housing Round 4 Committee and the Planning Board, helping to shape our new 10-year plan. It received no objection from the public, developers, or the Fair Share Housing Center, a strong sign that it's legally sound and strategically balanced. And it also does put most of the development on JFK Parkway. So it's not something to do in the future, Jamie. It's something that's already been done. We can't change state law alone, but we can ensure future development is better planned, communicated, and integrated with community needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We will now move into the second thematic topic of the evening, which is sustainability and the environment. The question here, flooding, energy efficiency, and sustainability remain major concerns in Millburn. Residents have also questioned recent environmental decisions, such as tree removals in South Mountain and areas such as Taylor Park, and ordinances such as those regarding electric leaf blowing, noting that the reasons are unclear, decision makers are not well identified, and the process for public input remains uncertain. How would you improve transparency and ensure stronger community involvement in these important environmental matters. So with this round, we will start with Annette, and then Jamie, Michael, and Kris. So Annette, 2.5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I appreciate this question because flooding, energy efficiency, and sustainability are all major concerns of mine as well. Let's answer the first part of that question, which is the tree removals in Taylor Park or South Mountain Taylor Park. Our town is very fortunate that we have an excellent forester, Stacy Phelps. Among other things, it's Stacy's job to ensure the health of our town's trees. Unfortunately, 4 ash trees in an area of Taylor Park near the corner of Ridgewood and Whittingham developed ash disease and had to be removed. Stacy and DPW removed them and decided to leave the spots bare for the upcoming winter so the kids who like to sled can do so easily in the wintertime. In the spring, she plans to plant 10 new trees in that area, so the town will soon have more tree protection there. That's something we can all get behind. As for the leaf blowers, the Millburn Environmental Commission is working right now continuously to educate the community about the ordinance. I can't remember an ordinance that was discussed as thoroughly as this one. The Environmental Commission holds numerous conversations at Town Hall and elsewhere to talk about the issue. The discussions were devoted to listening to the public. Some of the sessions were dedicated to just the town's professional landscapers. The Township Committee spent many, many months hearing from professionals, landscapers, homeowners for and against the restriction. And even a number of children, some of our scouts, came to Town Hall to testify and so did a number of Millburn High School students. We wanted to make sure that everyone who wanted to weigh in on this issue had the opportunity to do so. It's hard because we don't have a township newspaper, but we worked hard to ensure that every voice was heard on this issue. I personally spoke to a lot of residents and landscapers, hearing all sides to the story, all sides to the issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to Jamie, 2.5 minutes, whenever you're ready.
Sure. This is a process question, and I want to touch upon the breakdown in processes that we've seen under the leadership of Romano and Cohen. Let's be clear about the timeline, right? And referring to the last question as well, Romano and Cohen took office in January of 2023. 4 months later, in April 2023, as Michael had said, they were not involved with the developers, right? The Township Committee granted the developer standing that now allows RPM to sue our town, even though RPM doesn't own land in this town, right? Let's make that clear. They had the opportunity to push back and they didn't. They chose not to. And they had backed Maggie Miggins, who did not allow transparency. We've seen the flip with Frank Saccomanti as the liaison to the Environmental Commission and pushing this transparent process, whether it be with leaf blower, whether it be with flooding. We've seen the advancement of so many different information sessions and demonstrations. And that was really the push. Frank had spoken up and had gotten the Public Works to buy certain equipment and invest in testing things. That was not necessarily, that couldn't be said for the other side. So we can't mislead the community about transparency. Our opponents say they are transparent. However, you can't avoid responsibility for the decisions you made in office. The question voters need to ask is, if you fast track this project, then why should we trust you to act differently going forward? The leaf blower is one example of working together with the impact of Frank and Ben on the Township Committee. But without Frank and Ben and Kris and I coming into office to stop potentially lack of judgment, how can we trust that our town will be in an appropriate position? You can see the process breakdown there, and you can see the process improvement with the Vote for Millburn team coming in. I'm an Eagle Scout, and a Scout is trustworthy, and a Scout is loyal, and helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. But trustworthy and loyal. Being loyal to the town is important, not selling out to developers, and being trustworthy that you're going to keep your word on the actions you took in office. The actions are clear. RPM was chosen as the developer, and they have standing. Whether that was a vote, whether that was something that was done complicitly, that needs to be made clear. And I'll work closely with our stakeholders to make sure that's done in the future.
Thank you, Jamie. We are now moving on to Michael Cohen, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Actually, Jamie, you confused me a little because at first I thought I was running against Frank, but that was actually 3 years ago. So and I also didn't hear you say anything about flooding, so maybe that's just not important to you. Anyway, flooding is one of the most serious environmental concerns that we have. While we can't prevent extreme weather, we have mitigated its impact through smart infrastructure investments, including improved drainage in South Mountain, upgrades to the Gilbert Place pump station, and a new study to address Glenwood flooding, especially near the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum. Given the site's complexity, I ensured Arboretum representatives are involved in the project team. When it comes to broader environmental policy, the Environmental Commission, a state-mandated advisory board, plays a key role. They conduct research and hold public forums before bringing proposals to the Township Committee. This was certainly the case with the recent leaf blower ordinance. They even held 2 live demonstrations to compare equipment. Once a proposal reaches the committee, there are at least 4 public meetings, each with 2 comment periods, all of which are advertised well in advance to encourage public involvement. The leaf blower issue alone was discussed at around 10 public meetings, and I received more resident feedback, calls, and emails on that topic than any other during my term. Transparency and community engagement are essential. The more feedback we receive, the better our decisions, and I encourage more residents to get involved in shaping Millburn's future. Thank you.
Thank you. And last for this round is Kris, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Jessica. I've always held the environment close to my heart. I was CFO of a company called Recycle Bank. We had a program to incentivize green actions such as recycling by creating a rewards program. This program earned you points, which could be redeemed for coupons and discounts at local businesses. I mention this because I thought environmental issues were important enough to stake my career on and take a chance on this interesting startup. Secondly, the customers of this company were municipalities, and we signed up over 300 of them. So I have deep experience in working with municipalities. Lastly, it supported local businesses by driving customers to them. This provided valuable insights on both what municipalities want, how local entrepreneurs think, and what motivates them. It was a great experience, and I think it will lend itself well to municipal government and how I can bring different solutions to the township. Jamie said this was a process question, and I agree. Much of the work done by the township is done at the committee level, not necessarily on the township committee. We need to ensure qualified people with diverse backgrounds who are committed to this community serve on committees, not partisan supporters who seek to control the process. For example, the Environmental Commission now has Li Xiao Wu and Jude Wong, thanks to Frank. You mentioned many issues there. It was my plan to talk about flooding. Jamie chose not to talk about it because he was talking about leaf blowers, so it is important to us, Michael. So Frank and Ben also put qualified people on the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. They were engineers with scientists with deep experience in the field, as well as analytical minds. They were not political appointees or favorites. The engineers that Frank and Ben put on the committee came up with a viable long-term plan to permanently solve Millburn's flooding issues, as well as those communities downstream from us. However, this will require a lot of county, state, and federal resources to fund it. We will work with every level to make sure this happens. Romano and Cohen pose for photo ops with these people, but don't get results. Thanks to Frank and Ben, the town is currently working on doubling the storm retention requirements for development to stop some of the flooding issues at its source. We support this effort. We should also look to do a townwide climate resilience plan to harden infrastructure, update zoning laws, and be more prepared for climate events. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. We will now move into our third section, public safety and community trust. For this one, we'll start with Jamie, then Michael, Kris, and Annette. So public safety is a top priority, but residents also value transparency and community trust. How would you approach public safety in a way that balances resources, accountability, and neighborhood needs? Jamie, we'll start with you.
Sure.
I think I was supposed to go first. Was I?
In the rotation.
In the rotation?
Do I have, did I say?
I had
set
my
this up.
name down
Did you?
in the rotation.
R comes before S.
I think I completely forgot my alphabet. I am so sorry. Annette, we'll start with you. This is what happens when you're out of school for too long. Start with you, Jamie, Michael, and then Kris. Yes, yep, that is correct. Yep, yeah, sorry about that. Annette, we'll start with you, and then Jamie, and then Michael, and then Kris. Unless that is what we did last round, I believe.
I did. Okay. I wrote down when you started at the top and I just rotated. I'm good with whatever order you want to go in.
Whatever you want to do
Whatever
is
you want
fine.
to do.
Annette, you want to start? Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
In response to recent ICE incidents in Millburn, Michael and I stand firmly with our community. We remain committed to preserving a town where dignity, respect, and fairness are not just ideas, but everyday realities. Together, we will ensure that Millburn remains a safe, supportive, and welcoming place for all who call home. Under our leadership, crime in Millburn has significantly decreased. We've hired additional police officers and invested in advanced crime fighting technology, making Millburn one of the safest communities in the area. Other towns look to us as a model for our modern safety initiative and resources. We also introduced a community policing division, which has become especially popular with younger residents. Our officers are visible throughout the town and have hosted events such as Coffee with a Cop to strengthen connections with the community. I invite everyone watching this forum to attend one of their future events. Safety is everyone's responsibility. If you see something, say something. During my time on the Township Committee, we expanded the police force, we implemented license plate readers, and created the Community Policing Unit, all contributing to a meaningful reduction in crime and a renewed sense of community. We also launched the Home Assessment Program, which provides safety tips and helps residents protect their families and homes. We also received a $479,000 grant that will be working on pedestrian safety at the Short Hills train station. Calming traffic will be part of the $150,000 grant for Millburn Avenue and Lackawanna Place by adding angled parking. E-bikes have also become a real concern lately. Police have already been in Millburn Middle School and Millburn High School observing students' riding habits, commending them when they are following the law and talking to them when they don't. They've already attended some school assemblies and plan to do more. If your child has an e-bike or a regular bike, talk to your children, because if they don't follow the law, they may be accompanied home by a police officer. This is a serious issue and it's not a joke. I've been working with School Superintendent Kate Diskin on these initiatives because we are one community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll have Jamie next whenever you're ready.
Sure. Thank you very much. Look, we have to prioritize our pedestrian safety and our traffic safety as we encounter a number of these major developments coming in. Kris is going to talk a little bit more about crime. I'm going to really focus on something that happened at a recent Township Committee meeting. Dave Cosgrove stated proudly and directly that we need to change the mindset of this community and put residents first, not developers. We saw our opponents, in particular Ms. Romano, not stand up for the residents in that moment when we're talking about moving a sidewalk that was moved in front of the Woodland Road property. For anybody who knows, the sidewalk was moved across to add 2 additional crosswalks, right? So people commuting or going to school for the first time have to disrupt their commute. Young kids, I might add, on a corner where there was a hit and run that has still not been solved, a murder. So we have to focus on our pedestrian safety. That's looking at Lackawanna and Glen. That's looking at near all of our schools. That's looking at pathways to our train stations. We have to look at a jitney service, and we have to look at leveraging our developers who happen to be coming into our town and taking up our space, right? Not looking to necessarily collaborate. Have them collaborate and put forward opportunities to take people off of the roads and use jitneys or buses. How about a jitney around the downtown as well? You know, these are some key solutions on trying to get cars off of the roads. Also, I would agree. We need to have helmets and enforcement and education for all of our e-bikes and regular bikes. We have to ensure that we are focusing on our key intersections, and we're also focusing on lighting and sidewalks. I grew up in this community, and Annette can attest to it too. She grew up here as well. We have a very dark community, in particular at night, in particular when it's getting darker. So we have to be really proactive. I would agree. We also need to focus on how parking is done. More angled parking, and also more repaired sidewalks. Oscars I go into on a weekly basis, that sidewalk's a mess, and other sidewalks are being taken care of much better. So we need to make the streets bike friendly, walk friendly, commuter friendly, and put our residents first, not our developers.
Thank you, Jamie. We will now move on to Michael whenever you're ready.
And again, I'd just like to point out, I was certainly at that township committee meeting. There was unanimity amongst all 5 of us about the importance of pedestrian safety. And there was none of us were happy with the situation by the Woodland Road development, which is in my own neighborhood, and which is in violation of their agreement with the planning board. And we certainly expect that something there will be changing shortly. Anyway. We've made real progress on public safety since I joined the township committee due to our significant financial investment. As a result, crime is down significantly. Specifically, we've installed license plate readers to help law enforcement identify subjects early. We've increased police staffing, and we launched a community policing unit that builds trust between officers and residents. I also introduced a free home security review program run by our community policing unit. It helps residents assess and improve their home security, and over 150 households have already participated. We'll soon be promoting this program again to expand its reach. We also support neighborhood watch groups, which empower residents to connect and collaborate with police. When neighbors know each other, they're more likely to notice and report unusual activity. The bottom line, public safety requires smart tools, strong relationships, and a proactive approach, and we're making real strides in all 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And last but not least on this round, Kris, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Jessica. There was a spike in crime a few years ago. Thanks to the leadership of Frank and Ben and the tireless work of the Millburn Police Department, there was a 60% drop in car thefts and a 40% drop in home burglaries. However, we must remain vigilant, and even one incident is too much crime. But let's really examine how this drop in crime happened. Frank, an IT professional, as a private citizen, attended many township committee meetings and advocated for the implementation of technology, such as license plate readers. It is true that some of these were implemented prior to Frank and Ben getting elected, but the credit should still accrue to Frank. Once elected, Frank and Ben instilled a culture of accountability with the police chief and business administrator. Romano and Cohen were on the township committee for an entire year previously. It did not take similar action. When the state and county leadership refused to prosecute petty theft due to a catch and release policy handed down by Trenton, Frank and Ben led the charge to pass the resident protection ordinance within 4 months of taking office on April 16, 2024. A police staffing study was conducted, and we have the data necessary to allocate the proper resources to the police and deploy those resources more effectively. All of this has a strong deterrent effect and ensured that the town would have a mechanism to hold criminals accountable. So what will we do going forward? We'll continue to work with the police to ensure that they have the necessary resources to get the job done, and at the same time hold them and the town leadership accountable for the results. These criminal groups learn and adapt their tactics. We must constantly monitor the latest developments in Millburn and surrounding towns to stay ahead of them. Neighborhood watch groups, such as Poets Watch, are an important part of the solution. Many citizens came together after the rise in crime a few years ago, but it seems like some of these groups are losing steam as crime dropped. We'll partner with Community Policing Unit to reinvigorate these groups, promote the sharing of best practices, and continue to establish new ones where they don't exist. Some of these criminal groups are organized, professional, and specifically target minority groups. We'll work with other law enforcement agencies to gain information about these criminal groups and their tactics. We'll increase outreach to the targeted communities to help them take the appropriate defensive measures. You may hear Romano and Cohen claim credit for these successes. Just like housing, their story doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Michael is not running against Frank, but we are proud to be on the same platform as our predecessors. We're not running away like they are from Maggie and Tara and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. We will now move on to the fourth question, which is around downtown revitalization and business growth. And for this round, Jamie, we will start with you, followed by Michael, Kris, and then Annette. Millburn's downtown is central to our township's identity. How would you encourage downtown revitalization and support for small businesses while addressing residents' concerns about parking, traffic, and congestion? Jamie, whenever you're ready.
Sure. I think it's clear. I just want to add something that Kris had mentioned. We can't run away from our records. And the truth is, Annette and Michael had put in place their predecessors. They mentioned their roles on the Democratic Committee and serving as district leaders. That role is selecting the candidates. And as a result, we were, as a township, we had to face what these candidates had done. Talking about downtown and local businesses, we need to focus on implementing the plans. A downtown visioning plan was put in place under the watch of the Democrats, but there were not things that were effectuated as a result. They had gone after the Rose Garden. There were studies on two-way traffic that had gone nowhere. That is a sense and a focus on not on long-term planning, but on pet projects and on small, and they're not small dollar amounts, they're significant dollar amounts, but on sort of small minute thoughts as opposed to long-term strategic planning. We have to resurrect our downtown visioning plan, and we have to not shelve our studies and our master plan. We have to focus on all of the business districts, and we need to look for anchor stores, right? You go into Summit, they're the home decor headquarters. They are the home design headquarters. We need to attract anchor stores and anchor businesses. While events are great for community spirit, our focus should be on bringing in strong and well-to-do businesses and restaurants, and many of them local, right? And local resident focused. We met with a resident recently who talked about how a restaurant passed over our community. The food choices of our community does not necessarily reflect the demographic shift, right? We also need to create a clear theme. So, that's really where I want to be an effective leader, partnering, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Ben has worked really hard with Explore, and others have, but we need to shift the focus. That was the issue with the prior DMDA as well. We have to focus on attracting businesses, connecting people with the necessary resources, and, looking at, allocating resources in the best way possible. I want to make clear that there were vision plans done. There were prior mayors and township committee members who focused on projects, and then they get shelved, right? A new administration comes in, a new idea, somebody wants a new headline. That's not how I want to operate. I want to be a good steward of our taxpayer money and focus on supporting our local economy. You see me in downtown every day in all the business districts. Let's keep that focus and not on pet projects. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. We will now move on to Michael, whenever you're ready.
Ready. So I've been a longtime supporter of Explore Millburn Short Hills, our business improvement organization. Despite the pressures of online retail and mall competition, they've helped cut downtown retail vacancies and vacancies throughout the town to under 5%. Their community events, concerts, movie nights, festivals bring energy to our downtown and boost local businesses by attracting both residents and non-residents. That said, daytime parking remains a challenge. Here's how we can improve it. First, stricter enforcement of time limits to prevent long-term meter feeding. Second, ensuring employees and business owners use designated parking areas, not customer spots. And third, making the parking deck free at all times. It's underused, and this change could help ease congestion on nearby streets. A vibrant downtown is vital to our identity, and supporting it requires both strategic planning and attention to practical details like parking and traffic flow. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. We'll move on next to Kris.
Thank you. I'll keep hitting on my theme of long-term strategic planning. Everything we have to do has to fit in this plan, not one-off ideas or pet projects.
I lost you, Kris.
I think he might be frozen.
It's broken.
Hello, hello. Am I back on?
Okay. Yep, we have you back.
Nope.
Nope.
Again, Kris.
Jessica?
We can hear you.
Okay, you're cutting in and out. It's a little choppy.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I'm not sure what's.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
hear you.
I think we have you back.
I apologize. What do you want?
No, I was gonna say once we have you back for more than a couple sentences, you can feel free to start at the top. I'll reset the timer on this one.
Turn off my video, so maybe my audio will come through clearer for this.
Nope.
In a minute. Is that okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay.
I think we may have lost you again, Kris.
Not working, Jessica?
Just heard you now, Kris.
Not with your computer.
Mind if I just look at my phone to call Kris real quick?
Yes, yeah, go ahead. No worries at all.
At the same time, Jessica, would you mind putting on some music?
Sure, let me see if I can
Thank you.
pull up my Spotify. Give me 1 second.
All right. I do have Kris with me.
Do you have your video on?
Yes.
Apologize, Jessica.
No problem at all.
See me and hear me now?
I think the video is taken. Okay, perfect. Loud and clear.
Right.
All right, we can start from the top, if you will.
Yeah. So I have a theme of long-term planning and strategic planning. Everything we do has to fit into that plan, not one-off ideas or pet projects. As a CFO, I was in charge of a process of allocating resource. In business, we've always had a fixed amount of capital to invest. So you have to decide whether you open a new office down in Texas, put salespeople in London, or expand the data center in Asia. I feel like a township should be run the same way. Many projects sound good as a one-off, but choosing between projects is always difficult. The difference with a township is that resident input should be the deciding factor on what we do. I don't think we've done that very well as a town, and I want to improve that. Jamie, I'm sorry. We need to make sure businesses feel welcome in Millburn, not discouraged. It should be easy to open and run a business here. We need to cut red tape, simplify the permitting process. I keep hearing from businesses that it is not. We just met with residents, as Jamie mentioned, looking to establish residents or restaurants in town. They passed us up in favor of other towns. And speaking of restaurants, why do we have to drive all the way to East Hanover to get Spicy Chef authentic food? Restaurants like that should be right here in Millburn. We need a systematic way to understand the needs of prospective business owners and how to position ourselves to make an investment in Millburn more attractive. We do have to address concerns about parking, traffic, and congestion. This means looking at smart parking solutions and making downtown more accessible without overwhelming our streets. We need a townwide traffic study, focus on pedestrian safety, and implement recommendations of the downtown visioning plan. We could look into a jitney service like other towns to provide transportation downtown without cars. Some of the worst traffic is in the morning when schools start and in the afternoon when the schools let out. We know the cost of busing has increased substantially, forcing people to drive their students to school. We can partner with the Board of Education to find creative solutions to reduce traffic during these peak times. Angled parking was put in place to reduce the double parking, and it has been successful. We need to review that and also make more regulations on delivery drivers, as well as increase enforcement. So again, we need to support our businesses through a long-term plan. Thank you.
Muted. Thank you, Kris. And last but not least on this round, we have Annette.
But I went first.
You didn't, though. You didn't. You're number 4.
Okay. We're on question 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So on summer weekends, our downtown is full of energy and activity. This didn't happen by accident. It's a result of years in planning and the hard work of the Explore Millburn Short Hills board led by Steve Grillo, who has brought new life to the area. I've always supported and taken part in downtown events, and we continue to work together to keep our downtown thriving. Our downtown, along with our great schools and convenient transportation, adds social and economic value to Millburn Township. We've worked hard to make downtown welcoming and for residents and visitors. By helping local businesses team up with events and promotions, we've turned it into a true destination for family and people of all ages. We'll keep looking for new ways to improve the downtown and Upper Millburn Avenue by listening to residents, business owners, and visitors. Through partnerships and smart investments, we plan to continue to support small businesses and improve public spaces and expand cultural programs that bring people together. Our goal is for our business districts to be a strong economic center and a vibrant community hub where everyone feels included. Unlike past Republican-led committees that created the expensive and confusing Complete Streets project, we don't believe downtown needs major redevelopment. Instead, we'll focus on practical, cost-effective steps to keep it active and appealing and slow down traffic. Downtowns must evolve as shopping habits change. With more people buying online, we need to focus on things that can't be replaced by online shopping, like dining, entertainment, and community experiences. A stronger business district will raise property values and increase tax revenue from businesses, helping reduce pressure on residential taxes. Traffic is a big concern. We support safer walking and biking options and will continue working with county and state officials to ease congestion, much of which comes from regional traffic cutting through town like Route 24. In short, our plan is practical, affordable, and transparent, and it avoids the costly mistakes by past Republican-led committees. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Annette. Now we'll move into the last thematic question, and then after that we'll follow some of the audience submitted questions. The last round 5 question is on immigration, and this will start with Michael, followed by Kris, Annette, and then Jamie.
Sorry, immigration or engagement?
Engagement.
Immigration. Unless that is different from what you were provided.
No, immigration.
I can read off the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me read off the question and see if that matches. If not, I can confer with the.
We're happy to answer any question.
Sure, I'll kick it off. And if we have time, we can probably squeeze in an additional one if there was one that got left off the script I was provided. Millburn is home to many first-generation immigrants, many of whom are busy professionals with demanding schedules and who may face language barriers. Currently, public meetings only allow in-person attendees to give public comments, which can make it harder for these residents to participate. What is your perspective on supporting the diversity of our community, and how would you work to improve immigrant residents' access to public resources, opportunities to engage in civic affairs, and more inclusive ways for them to share feedback with the township? Happy to read it one more time if that was not what was provided.
The same question, it just was
Yeah, we thought of it as
Different header? Okay,
engagement.
amazing. Then we will kick it off with Michael, whenever you're ready.
First, I want to clarify, the Millburn Township Committee meetings do allow remote participation via Zoom and have done that since 2023. Residents can speak during 2 public comment sessions, even if they can't attend in person. This is important, especially for busy professionals and families. Unfortunately, the Board of Education, where my opponents have served, does not offer this level of access, which I agree is a missed opportunity. Millburn is now more diverse than ever before, and I celebrate that. I've been honored to participate in many cultural events and have learned so much from our multicultural communities. Their contributions make Millburn stronger. When it comes to communications, we face real challenges. There's no local newspaper, and many rely on social media, email blasts, and township phone updates, all of which have limitations. I recently learned that new business items, which can often start important policy discussions, weren't being included in the public agenda packet. I'm already working to change that for greater transparency. While public forums are often sparsely attended, we must continue to hold them and do a better job promoting them. The public response to the leaf blower ordinance showed us what strong engagement can look like. Finally, I want residents to know my door is always open, my township email is public, and I'm available to speak with anyone about their concerns. Thank you.
I am muted. Kris, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Vote for Millburn embodies community engagement. It is why we started. You want to meet people where they are. There can always be improvements in transparency and ensuring a thorough and inclusive process for the discussion of public issues. First, let's review the record on what has already happened. Frank and Ben added a second public comment period at the Township Committee meetings to allow more time for residents to clarify questions before the committee or simply voice their concerns. Frank and Ben started the practice of responding to resident comments immediately, providing timely, critical feedback. If they weren't able to answer their questions immediately, they'd follow up on those answers. We wish all Township Committee members took advantage of this. I know Jamie and I will. So what will we do going forward? We will be accessible. We are always in town, we'll be in town, and we encourage residents to interact with us. If there's a group meeting, whether cultural or other, invite us to speak for a few minutes, and we could talk about whatever issue is top of mind or whatever is coming up on the agenda. We'll hold office hours, which I do not believe Annette does. We keep hearing that emails to the township are not answered timely and not answered in a satisfactory manner. We'll work to ensure that all emails are, and that issues are brought to a satisfactory resolution. We'll spend more time talking to residents and less time on photo opportunities. We will publish a guide on how local government works, especially if the government is modified with the Charter Commission. Most residents do not have time to research ordinances or how they work. The town needs to do a better job of explaining legislation. There are no descriptions of resolutions or ordinances, and documents are not presented in a digital-friendly manner. We'll push to include a summary paragraph in plain language that explains what ordinance is and how it operates. It feels like the town makes it hard to find information and get things done. We'll change the mindset of the town to put residents first. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. We'll move on to Annette whenever you're ready.
Thank you. As Michael mentioned, unlike Board of Ed President Kris Heinrichs and the Board of Ed, anyone can participate during our public comment periods, either in person or via Zoom. Kris and the Board of Ed do not allow virtual public comment. We welcome civic engagement and value the voices of our residents. You can always share your feedback, questions, or concerns with me. I'm available by phone or email, and I regularly meet with residents to hear your thoughts, ideas, and dreams for an even better community. We all have something to learn from one another. All of the staff at Town Hall, most of the staff at Town Hall, as well as our police, fire, DPW, and our Millburn Short Hills Volunteer First Aid Squad, have served our community for many years. For them, it's more than a job. They generally care about Millburn, and they are approachable and accessible to everyone. I embrace the diversity of our community. Over the years, I've attended countless events that celebrate our residents' cultures, heritages, and traditions. We celebrate together, we support each other, and we grieve together, because that's what makes a community strong. Experience and institutional knowledge matter now more than ever. I bring both, ensuring that our town remains a safe, inclusive, and thriving place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. And Jamie, we'll have you close this out.
Sure. Look, engagement is my middle name, and Kris, it's his second middle name. We want to be engaging, we want to be available, and of course, I respect the diversity of our community. I've gotten to know many members of the Chinese Association over the years, taken part in many celebrations. I served with members on the Board of Education as well, and that's all communities. Let's talk about words versus actions. So regarding my opponents, in January of 2023, Romano and Cohen first acted after being sworn in, and we heard this in a prior debate. They did eliminate the Zoom option with no notice at Township Committee meetings, and it was swiftly brought back after people had spoken up. When another member moved to restore it, Annette Romano refused to even second the motion. So it went 3 weeks without Zoom option, and the public outcry was what pushed that. In May 2025, when meetings moved to the Ed Center, no Zoom was available again. So when asked about virtual access, Romano said, let's see what happens meeting by meeting. But, how can you tell somebody, how can you tell if there's a problem if you eliminate the tool that would reveal it, right? So I want to make sure that meetings are accessible. I want to make sure the tools are implemented. Right? Township committee members have used that Zoom option to participate from near and far, and our opponents wanted to remove that. The dump housing project, it was fast-tracked in 2023 with 0 resident input, giving RPM legal standing they now use to sue our town. Regarding the charter study, Michael Cohen voted against putting this question on the ballot. At the recent debate, right, it was said, he predicted it would pass. That's not about leadership. That's waiting for others to lead. He knows residents wanted it, but he still voted to prevent them from having that choice, right? That's not leadership. And this is a pattern. Look at real transparency. That means trusting residents from the start, not waiting for massive pushback to do the right thing. So when elected, Kris and I will ensure that there's a permanent Zoom access and real community input on major decisions going on. Not access you have to fight for meeting by meeting. And like Kris said, happy to attend events, be accessible, even just, being open to hearing opposing views, not being yelled at. I've been to hundreds of township committee meetings, used to get bullied and yelled at meetings. That's not going to happen under Jamie and Kris.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. So
Sure.
that concludes our thematic question, and we'll now move into audience questions that we've received from the public. These have been collected from residents prior to the forum, and questions are all relevant to township issues and presented in a fair, nonpartisan way. Each candidate will have, let me see how much time. I'll cap it at 2 minutes to answer, just given the remaining time that we have. And again, we'll continue to rotate responses. We have 2 audience questions. The first one pertains to property taxes and township services. So with this one, we'll start with Kris, and then Annette, Jamie, and Michael. So question 1, Millburn residents are concerned about high property taxes, but also value strong township services. From your perspective, what is the current budget situation and what challenges do you see? How much grants do our town receive from the state government? How would you balance the need to keep taxes manageable while ensuring the quality of services that our community depends on? Kris, whenever you are ready.
That's a great question. Our budget is essentially 50% the schools, that's around $100 million, 25% for the county, that's about $50 million, and 25% to actually run the municipal government. So we can look at all of those pieces. School budgets are capped at 2%, and they decide the increase. So that's going to flow through. And as the school board president and a strong proponent of public education, that is something I recommend that we keep on doing. So property taxes will inch up to support our schools. Municipal government, I'm an expert at going through budgets line by line, finding efficiencies, and I'm sure we can get lots of resident input on how we can make our services better and balance them with the needs for the premium services. I'm not going to claim I'm an expert in this area, but as we've talked about many times tonight, the purpose of the township government is to engage our citizens, get their feedback, understand what they want, and implement those solutions. That's what I've done my entire career. I think one of the biggest areas we can work on is that 25% that goes to the county. That's $50 million every year. What do we get back for that? Yes, we get a few grants here and there, but it is definitely not that much money. So we're really going to pressure the county to get some of that money back for us. And I think we need to push back at all levels. Taxes keep going up, and it's not just the property taxes, right? The mansion tax has increased by another percentage point. My rough calculations, that's going to cost the residents of Millburn another $8 million every single year. So it's about the overall tax burden on our state, and we'll work to push back at all levels on taxes. So again, sorry.
I'm muted.
No worries. Great. Thank you so much. Sorry, just as a reminder, I'm capping the audience questions at 2 minutes, but thank you so much, Kris. We'll move on to Annette whenever you're ready for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Michael and I pride ourselves on being fiscally responsible, and that is how we govern. Under our leadership, Millburn has a AAA bond rating. Michael has done a great job on the finance committee, working very closely with our business administrator and our CFO. The town under our leadership is doing extremely well financially. This has enabled us to hire more police officers and invest in that crime-fighting technology. We have pickleballs at Giro Park, we have library renovations, and so much more. And a lot of this was done with our county and state partners, going through grants that were available, and this has never been done, at least not at this magnitude. We were set to get $1.1 million in federal funding for a flood mitigation project in South Mountain. When the federal administration came in, we lost that money immediately. Thankfully, we will be getting $500,000 in state funding thanks to Senator John McKeon. The project will get done. We've upgraded our facilities, we've invested in our business community and our downtown to make it even more attractive. We've given our police department the resources they need to keep you, our residents, safe, all with minimal tax increase. Next to Roseland, our taxes are almost the lowest in the county. We take advantage of every grant opportunity out there. We've done this all in a fiscally responsible manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. We will now move on to Jamie whenever you're ready.
Sure. Look, Annette referred to Senator John McCain. Well, Senator John McCain, Rosie Begoli, and Alex Sanclazo-Gill voted against our interests on the mansion tax, voted against our interests on the affordable housing bill. Look, that is not helping our bottom line. And I think that's clear that grants and, I think Kris had said it well on a prior occasion, taking our money and giving back a small portion is not the way we want to operate. We have to know an ROI. And years ago, they looked to secede from Essex County. And look, since then, there were some agreements that were made. There was, a push for trust. We haven't seen that return on investment for the money that we're giving. Ben is on the finance committee, and it's likely Ben's financial leadership that has helped keep tax increases.
Oh, please.
I don't think I spoke when you were speaking. So please, I'd say, please watch the bottom line, and please, not allow our money to be taken from the county, and support these leaders who are taking and making decisions not on our behalf. So Ben also pushed back against the county and set up a meeting right? Apparently the town hadn't met in several years, also pushed back the reassessment of properties, right? So our opponents put us in a precarious position with the dump project as well. Look, by granting RPM, the housing developer, legal standing to sue us, they signed away a blank check. Now the developer is asking Millburn taxpayers to foot that bill. That's not fiscal responsibility, and we could be on the hook for up to $50 million. So every dollar must deliver value, right? That means competitive bidding, right? Shared services where appropriate, zero-based budgeting. So Annette Romano, as chairwoman of the Democratic Committee, pushed Diane Eglo off the ticket after she wrote a letter about she was pressured, to hire contractors. Our opponents talk about state grant funding for flood mitigation, yet sign $7 million, on other projects. We have to be focused on the bottom line, and there's no line item for funding in our budget. Kris and I are willing to do that.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. And to wrap up this question, Michael, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I prefer to stick to the things that are actually within our control. And while I can't say what the Board of Education is going to do, that certainly was up to Kris and how much money they feel they need to raise. That's certainly outside of our control. And while it's nice to talk about how you're going to pressure everybody, you're not dealing with amateurs either. So just because you show up, and I'm very glad that Ben and Annette had that meeting, but to be quite honest with you, that was several months ago, and I haven't, you can say Ben did a great job, but I haven't seen any results coming out of it at this point. As far as the tax rates and whatnot, as I said before, I've worked on the finance committee to keep the tax rate stable. There was no increase the first 2 years and a minor one in the last year. And it comes down to a choice. Millburn residents like to have their services. One way to reduce taxes is to eliminate some of those services. So maybe we could do away with the town doing the garbage collection, but I don't think that's what people want. That's what Maplewood does. Livingston has a volunteer fire department. I know I wouldn't feel safe in that situation. So we work really hard to keep the tax rate low. We take advantage of our AAA credit rating. We float bonds only when necessary, and then taking advantage of our AAA credit rating, that reduces our interest rates. So we do everything to keep the finances clean and to keep the tax rate stable. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Just as a quick reminder, as we move into the last question, I ask all candidates to please refrain from trying to rebut as other candidates are speaking, and there is actually no rebuttal round on any of these. And just to kind of keep things easy, if you are not responding to a question, it might be helpful to remain on mute. We will now get to the last question of the evening, which pertains to the schools. So the reminder is especially important here, given this is Millburn. And with the school question, we will start with Annette, and then Jamie, Michael, and then Kris. Millburn schools are a cornerstone of our community, but challenges such as large-scale personnel changes, budgeting, and youth mental health remain. How would you, as township committee members, support education and the well-being of our younger residents? Annette, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm a proud graduate of Millburn High School, as my brother, my sister, and my 3 children. One of the main reasons I chose to stay in Millburn after getting married was because of our incredible education system. As mayor, like I stated earlier, I've been working very close with the school superintendent on a variety of things. They're not only the public schools kids, they're our kids. We are in constant communication because many issues that affect our schools are also community issues. We are one community and we work together. Millburn needs a mayor or a township committee person who collaborates with the Board of Education and is willing to fight for all of the residents, especially our children, and I've done that. What we don't need are elected officials who let our children and taxpayers down. Vote for someone who finishes the job, not someone who quits when the going gets tough. Vote for proven leadership, not proven lies. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Annette. We'll move now to Jamie whenever you are ready.
Sure. So I'm a proud graduate of Millburn High as well, served as class president, and served on the Board of Education, proudly served 3 years, and brought that perspective. I want to ensure our schools are protected for my future kids and our posterity. That is really the core here, is what can we do long term? There were trailers at Glenwood School in the past. Kris and I both have served. You can't build until the kids are already in the schools. So these developments are going to be affecting us, building on 100% income segregated, project, 50 million backstop, 10 million in remediation. That is not going to help our education system in balance, right? It's not gradual development. We see all these developments coming up at once as well. So my opponents have approved that overdevelopment. As someone who served on the Board of Education, and this is deeply personal, I want to protect our schools. When classrooms get overcrowded, teacher attention gets divided, resources get stretched. We have amazing teachers, but we cannot ask them to go beyond their ability. And we already do. In 2023, Romano and Cohen fast-tracked the dump project. This round 3 deal was signed behind closed doors. This is not about protecting our schools. That leadership wasn't, right? Protecting our schools is making sure we're advocating for more state aid, if granted, or by the Board of Education, if they want assistance. It's about supporting people in higher office who want to provide that aid. And our members of the legislature have not fought for more aid. We saw dips this year. And that's why Rocktoberfest was really crucial, because it's to close a lot of those gaps, right? We need to fund youth services. Town budget, includes recreation services, but we really need to pursue outside of school activities. We also need to, reflect the views of the community. So I want to protect our schools. Overdevelopment will not do that. And I'm a proud graduate. I'm a product. I want others to have the same experience.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. We will now move on to Michael whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Well, it's been my experience, even from before I was elected, that the Township Committee and the Board of Education operated as 2 silos. And that's not a good thing and not a good way for one town. I've started to see some progress lately, and that would be with a project that we're working on together on a committee that I sit on with Kris for the fields to make improvements to the fields. It's moving along, not as quickly as it could, but it is moving along. And hopefully we'll see a proposal of that shortly to then be discussed with the public and move ahead. There are certainly more opportunities for shared services between the Board of Education and the township with regard to DPW work and other shared services as well. The schools are important to me. My children went through the school system, and my wife is a paraprofessional at the Hartshorn School. So, of course, as we know, the schools are one of the main reasons people choose to live in Millburn, and it's critical that we maintain their record of success and that we do that in a cooperative way with the Township Committee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And Kris, back to you whenever you're ready.
Sure. Jamie hit it right on the head. Overdevelopment is the biggest threat to our schools. Romano and Cohen are part of the system that have forced this overdevelopment upon us. The best way that I can help the schools is to ensure that they are not reelected. Jamie and I have served on the school board. We've done more for the schools than our opponents. That's not even a discussion. The pace of change in our world is increasing. If you're not moving ahead, you're falling behind. The culture that we saw at the Millburn, particularly the high school, was complacent. They were resting on the laurels and the reputation. COVID accelerated many of the trends that were happening in education, such as optional college enlisting for SAT and ACT scores. The Millburn district was slow to respond. The community rose up and a new board was elected in 2023. These new board members established a majority with a mandate to change the schools. Seeing that this change was inevitable, I worked with them to moderate the changes and really change the tone of the rhetoric that was coming from the board. This same majority elected me president a year later because I was able to successfully do that. I was able to start restoring the relationship between the administration, the teachers, the students. We have made great strides in this area. We've been blessed that we've been able to attract some of the best talent to our schools. Millburn is still the premier district that in this state. We do have the best teachers. We do have the best administrators. We will keep powering forward. We are excited by the energy that all these new folks have brought, and we are just simply looking forward to move the schools forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So that closes out all the questions that we have for the evening. We will now move to closing statements, and each candidate will have 2.5 minutes to summarize their vision for Millburn and leave any final thoughts that you would like to leave for the residents. And for closing statements, keeping with the rotation, we will have Jamie, Michael, Kris, and then Annette. Jamie, whenever you are ready.
Sure. Well, I first want to thank the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for hosting. And as I said, it's always great collaborating, learning with, and growing with the community. It was great to be with you last Sunday as well for the, amazing gala. And of course, we want to make sure, and I think we've done so tonight, we made sure that the choice was clear. Kris and I are the ticket forward. Annette and Michael, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight and your service to the community, but they have sold our town out to developers, and they're not the leaders to continue to move us forward. So don't re-elect the problem, elect the solution. I bring leadership experience, deep commitment to our community, and in-depth knowledge to partner with Frank Sacamandi, Ben Stoller, and Kris, hopefully, and the Vote for Millburn movement. Together, ensuring our future is defined by our residents and property owners, and not those who neither live nor invest in our community. Our platform includes only allowing sensible development, safeguarding our exceptional schools, which I'm a proud product of, reducing crime, improving pedestrian safety, protecting our property values, preserving our landmarks, history, and environment, nurturing our diversity, dealing with vital local issues over party politics, and of course, never losing sight of our real bottom line. Children are our legacy. So don't vote for party, vote for yourself, vote for your family, vote for kids, vote for Millburn. It's clear that we were in a predicament several years ago by the predecessors of Romano and Cohen, who they had selected as proud Democratic district leaders. We have seen the result of their election as district leaders implementing these candidates, and we've seen the reckless overdevelopment begin to hit our community. Maggie Miggins, Diane Eglo, all push forward. We need to look at the facts, and we need to weigh where we are today and where we were years ago. Make the right decision. We have to, we've heard about advocating for transparency. Let's be transparent about records, and let's own what's going on right now. You see the cranes, you see the developments, you see the cars on the road, you see the changing landscape of the community. 1 story to 4 story, grass to concrete. Let's protect our community. Let's stay on the right side of history. Let's protect our residents, and vote Jamie Serruto and Kris Heinrichs. Thanks for having us.
Great, thank you, Jamie. We will now move on to Michael, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Thank you again to the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for hosting this forum and for giving us this chance to share our vision. Thank you also to everyone who is attending. Local government has a steep learning curve, and that's why experience matters. Over the past 3 years, I brought financial discipline, organizational know-how, steady leadership to the Township Committee. I've also been able to work across the aisle on various issues. Our township is now more stable, more professional, and more focused. We've delivered tax stability, investments in public safety and infrastructure, real progress on flooding and environmental issues, a vibrant downtown, and more respectful, productive governance. I vote my conscience and always act in the best interests of Millburn. If re-elected, I'll bring the same commitment, focus, and integrity that I've shown throughout my first term. I also believe it's important to finish what you start. We've started several major projects this year, particularly the renovation of Town Hall and fighting flooding in the Glenwood area. We want to see these completed on time and within budget. The choice in this election couldn't be clearer. Annette and I bring decades of real-world business experience and years of proven leadership as elected officials. We understand how to make decisions, manage budgets, and deliver results for our community. Our opponents, by contrast, lack both the depth of experience and record of commitment needed to lead effectively. For example, Mr. Serruto left early from his elected 3-year term to study abroad in Italy. His resume also lacks any meaningful business experience. There's been tremendous change in our schools this year in both administration and policy. Rather than seeing them through and helping to ensure that the schools remain successful, Mr. Heinrichs, the current Board of Education president, changed his mind about running for re-election and has now decided to run for the Township Committee, which has no jurisdiction over the school. Annette and I are committed to continuing to provide steady, responsible leadership for our community as a whole, and that is why I respectfully ask for your vote for both myself and Mayor Romano on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll now pass it over to Kris whenever you are ready.
Thank you. I would like to once again thank the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for sponsoring tonight's candidate forum. I would like to thank everyone who listens in to this. And of course, I'd like to thank Annette and Michael as well. The choice is clear. Anyone who has anything to do with the round 3 affordable settlement, including Annette and Michael, should never be allowed near the levers of power. We have made the case and laid out the facts. They simply do not have credibility. I am a proven executive whose skill set will be a great asset to this town. I stepped up to the challenge of the threat to this town from Annette and Michael and overdevelopment. I would have stayed on the school board and saw those changes through, but I am worried all those changes will be undone by the leadership of this town should it continue. Jamie and I have run a campaign that has garnered bipartisan support from across the community. We have welcomed all Millburn residents to join our movement that transcends political parties. We must all remember there's no Democratic parks, no Republican schools, and no unaffiliated roadways. When a classroom is overcrowded, it doesn't just affect the children of Democrats or the children of Republicans. It affects us all. We are Millburn. This is why Vote for Millburn is our rallying cry. For too long, the divisiveness of partisan politics have infected our community. We are the only candidates committed to governing for all residents, regardless of party. Jamie and I represent the change that our town so desperately needs to move to a more unified Millburn. If you'd like to learn more about our policies, please visit voteformillburn.com. We have contact information there. Please reach out to us. You see us all over town. Please stop us. Please talk. Remember, vote for Millburn. You can find us on line A. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. And to wrap us up for the evening, Annette, whenever you are ready.
Thank you. First of all, our Republican opponents keep talking about unifying, but they have obviously don't realize that the Township Committee is made up of 5 people. So regardless of what happens, David Cosgrove is still on the committee. I also wanted to clarify the lie about the Zoom option, because Michael and I did not vote against it, and it remained after we were elected. I've also never told an elected official how to vote or who to hire. It's another lie. The round 3 fair share agreement, Michael and I were not on the committee. The vote for RPM, Michael and I were not on the committee. The 9 Main Street vote, Michael and I were not on the committee. Again, Republican scare tactics. So I want to again thank the Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association for hosting this forum tonight. I am proud to serve the Township of Millburn and honored to have been elected mayor last year and again this year. I lead in a bipartisan way, always accessible by phone and email, and committed to putting our residents first. I'm running for re-election to the Township Committee alongside my running mate, Deputy Mayor Michael Cohen. Being an effective leader means to be a uniter, not a divider. It means serving everyone, regardless of party, and putting our communities first. At the food pantry, I don't ask what people's politics are. I just help them. When residents reach out with concerns, I respond plain and simple. There are no enemies. only neighbors who care about the town. That's how I govern, and that's how I will continue to govern. From the beginning, I've led in a nonpartisan way. I listen to residents, bring people together, and carefully weigh all options before making decisions. My focus has always been on what's best for the community, not politics or special interests. If reelected, I will continue working openly with our residents and keep moving Millburn Short Hills forward for everyone who calls this town home. I'm proud of our diverse, vibrant community. Millburn Short Hills is a true melting pot, and I celebrate every culture, heritage, and belief. Thank you for trusting me to serve the town I love, the only town I've ever called home. Please vote for Michael and I on November 4th. Remember, choose leaders, not liars. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Annette. And that concludes our forum for this evening. I want to thank all of our candidates for participating and for the very lively and engaging discussion on a Sunday night. Thank you to all the dozens of residents that joined for tonight. And now I will graciously give the floor back to Jessalyn for all of our closing remarks and reminders. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, being our host tonight. And also I would like to thank you, Annette, Michael, Kris, and Jimmy joining us for the forum. And it's an incredible forum. Thank you so much. And thank you, the audience, to stay with us tonight. The Millburn Short Hills Chinese Association is honored to hold this forum as a service to our community. We hope tonight's discussion has given you valuable insights as you make your decision on November 4th. We encourage everyone to stay engaged, ask questions, and most importantly, exercise your right to vote. Before we close, a quick reminder about participate in our democracy. If you are eligible to vote, but are not yet registered, or if you have moved and need to update your registration, please take a moment to do. This is an easy way you can register and check your registration status online. You can see our chat box. It have the website address. So please remember to register before you can vote on November 4th. So I remind you guys, vote is your voice. So it's very important you go vote on November 4th. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks again. I give it back to Jessica. Hello?
I believe that is all for everyone. Thanks for joining us, and I'll be on until everyone signs off just to make sure the Zoom closes out, but definitely feel free to. That concludes everything for the evening. Thanks again.